that I turned into becoming a micromanager for her. And yet, things were simply not working out. But then after a while, I had to kind of take a step back and start having conversations around why are we doing what we are doing. And, ask her to go attend some YouTube videos, watch some YouTube videos, read some books, and come back, have conversations about why are we doing this process and what are we trying to accomplish with this. It's a long process. It's not an immediate, quick result. But I can say that over the last, 1 year or so, the growth that she's had has been amazing. That it's been possible for me to step away from a lot of those daily, day in and day out activities, and I can see the result. So yeah, I think investor is probably what I have.
Investor is a very, very important aspect because that's when you sort of empower your employees by making them know the purpose of your business and also make them accountable. So when I relate to Cat Center again, if any of our customers talk to any of the Cat Center people, they will feel they are talking to the owner of the business. To that extent, the commitment and accountability was there. And that's a process. Like you said, it's a long drawn process. Faster you do it, better the results are for you. Okay, so let me move on to the next question. If there is one behavior you would stop, start, or strengthen after reading this book, what would it be?
Change is continuous. I have to keep evolving. So I can't say that there's only one behavior on which I would still say that probably I should put is to be a little more challenging for things to be given to them, because that's when I think I'll probably get the best out of them.
Okay, so you are saying I'll want to become a more challenging your people more than what you're doing currently.
Correct.
So that they can stretch themselves and deliver.
And do better.
Okay, thank you, Shekhar.
Yeah, for me, I think it is probably learning to keep quiet and listen more, probably, and through that process, ensure that others are having an opportunity to and create that space for debate that I was talking about earlier, right? And I think it's once you're running your own company or you're a leader, you cannot tolerate an awkward pause in a room, right? So if nobody is talking, you want to jump in and fill that space. It sort of comes very naturally to a lot of senior management people. You want to now jump in and say, okay, let's do it this way, let's do it that way. And you think you're being very motivating, but actually that's not true, as what I've learned from my other example that I gave. So for me, I think the one thing that I have started trying to do is to intentionally stop talking, giving instructions or giving ideas, and engaging people in a conversation. So and again, I keep coming back to an Indian context. Here we are conditioned to listen to elders. This is how we have evolved. This is in our DNA. When you have, to our parents, we are very deferential, right? If some elder comes into our house, we don't go and ask them questions naturally. It's very much ingrained in our DNA. So I think one of the things that I'm trying to learn more is to draw out people through a line of questioning. So if they are not talking, that doesn't mean they don't have anything to ask. It just means that they are hesitating to ask. Recognizing that and kind of throwing open some questions or figuring out other mechanisms, other ways by which you can have people engage in that dialogue and discussion and debate, because that's the only way you can grow yourself and the organization.
Yeah. So that's a very valid point you brought in. Authority plays a very important role. So if you're a person of authority, your followers really hesitate to question your authority.
Yeah, so I think another thing that I've started doing very intentionally in my conversations is to use these lines to say, hey, I don't have all the answers. I may be wrong. Don't take what I'm saying very literally. Using these things to reinforce that I don't have the answers. But through this process of dialogue, discussion, and debate, together we are going to find the answer.
Right.
And you have to do it a little bit more intentionally because again coming back to our cultural context, it is not something that comes very naturally to a lot of people.
Absolutely.
There are a lot of people who are very open. Youngsters today are quite challenging. They are not. They don't hesitate to. But that's not the general. I would say 80% of the people who still would be quiet.
Yeah. So only when we provide safe space and make them feel confident of asking questions, they'll ask. Otherwise, they'll keep quiet and also not do what you want them to do. So that's a very interesting point. So
actually, Ram, you don't want them to do what you want them to do. That is the other learning that I've had, right? You should actually make them all aspire to do something greater than even what I can describe.
Okay, when I said what you want them to do from the company's perspective, not your personal perspective, so that's the thing. So the final question for the evening, how would you introduce the concept of multipliers versus diminishers to a new team member or a leader in your organization? Maybe you can start, Soumya, and then...
Yeah, no, I've had conversations with my HR. I have two people in my team. They both have been given books and said, you better read it. We're going to have conversations around what we're going to do. I think this is going to be definitely a must read for all of the people and all of the managers in my organization. I plan to do some workshops, discussions around these concepts with the team so that, it's... because I truly believe in this concept. I think you are only as good a leader as the number of leaders you're able to create. Right. So I think it's something that I'm going to do. I also wanted to just share. So I was listening to the Audible book version in my car, and I had my young son, right? He's 12 years old. He's sitting in the car. And I thought, oh, you know what, you're there in the car, let me turn it into music channel. And he's like, no, Ma, I want to listen to this book. And he was listening to this book. And then we paused and I said, what did you understand? This is management concept. And he turned around and said, Amma, are you a multiplier or a diminisher? What are you? But then I thought there is a parallel here from a parenting perspective as well. As parents, you need to be multipliers for your children. And I think that's the same thing within a corporate context as well. If you are a leader, you have to be multipliers. You have to have the joy of seeing people who are working for you grow beyond what their limits, they think their limits are.
That's a interesting perspective. Like son always thinks mom is a diminisher because they want to bring the discipline. In the terms of discipline, they always say, don't do this, don't do that. And that becomes a diminishing act. It's great that he related, that concept with you. I think that opens up. Shekhar, your turn now.
This particular book concepts, I would definitely summarize them. If I ask them to send this book to them and tell them to read this, I can tell you 90% of them would not do it.
Okay.
They won't spend the time to read that, but instead, this has given me a lot of good insights and concise them, give them certain examples, and then tell them, the reference is available. You want something more, please go through this. I'm sure this will help to my team. It's a good opening for that. I would say that I'll take this opening.
Okay.
You would have seen mostly I listen normally. I don't.
And the easiest way is to give the book and ask them to read and share it with you so that, it may not work. Maybe not the entire book. Probably give one chapter and say, hey, come back and tell you your perspectives on this. They may, okay? I know that many of us are not readers. That's the very reason why we are having this program. We are so much used to listening and seeing. So reading has sort of diminished over a period of time. But let me assure you that if you lay your hands on this book, you will feel like reading. It's that simple and that's relatable. Okay, so your final message, one message to the youngsters, based on this book.
Have faith in yourself. You have tremendous amount of potential. Realize them. And be patient. You will get your opportunity to do that. And a lot of managers are now turning to understand this. And they will be a lot less diminishers, I can assure you.
Okay. Thank you. Soumya.
Yeah, I think for the youngsters here, if you're not reading the entire book, read that chapter on how to deal with diminishers. I think, every one of us has infinite potential. It's up to us to figure out and discover that. So do not allow the ecosystem, the people around you, or give that control to somebody else and say, I'm not growing because of that person. I think let's remove that away, because there are ways in which you can handle difficult people, difficult bosses, difficult situations, etc. The potential to grow is completely within your hands.
Thank you, Soumya, for that. So we've come to the end of this review, but we have audience asking us questions, and these questions are right in front of you, and it's addressed to specific person, so you can read the question and give the appropriate.
Rakesh, wonderful question. How did you lead diverse teams across entrepreneurial and industry bodies while ensuring everyone contributes at their best? I've had multiple experiences in both in employment as well as on entrepreneurial and in the current industry body where I have been having this. Let me take about the industry body currently. What I'm having here is that we were at a crossroad where we wanted to get all the compliances and having systems in place so that we could follow certain systems and procedures so that we could perform much better. And so this industry body had to understand that we are here for certain specific purpose. And that was clearly sort of articulated to the team so that you all work towards the specific things for what we are here for. So that's what we are trying to slowly insist on, saying that we work towards this. Our whole idea, like see, for example, the Indo-American Chamber where I'm heading this, we are here for a bilateral trade between India and US. All our efforts and things must be towards how do I enhance trade between these two countries. Now, to do this, who are my members? My members are all mostly from the MSME sector. Now, what I need to do is to address them that what are the impediments you are having for your growth? What is blocking you from doing this? So that's where we are trying to address this, whether it is the government or it is any of the things which you are not able to get them done, or your own internal issues, or what with respect to the other country and so on. So this is what we are trying to do. So this has helped us. And even my own team has sort of understood that we are getting focused to do this. Like this in every area of my life, we have had these experiences and it has been helpful. The question is, allow them to think, take the correct vision, what you want to do there, and then put that across, get their opinions, and then further take it forward with them.
So you need to be an investor. Give them space and empower them. Thank you. Soumya, next question is to you.
How do you apply the concept of a multiplier in managing cross-functional teams at CreaDocs? Yeah, excellent question. Like I said, it's after reading this book that I came across the concept of multiplier. And I think, and there were several examples in the book where I was able to directly relate, diminisher examples, where I was able to directly relate to certain managers that we have at the organization or certain incidents that had happened. And so I think it is a mindset shift that needs to be brought about. And like I mentioned earlier, I think one of the ways in which I'm planning on doing that is to make the book a mandatory reading for at least managers, do some workshops, have conversations around it, because it is super important that your managers are also speaking that same language and they are not turning into accidental diminishers. Because pressures, just to go back to what Mr. Shekhar was talking about, is you have to give the purpose, core purpose, and talk about the why. That consumes some time. In a very impatient world, you want to immediately jump into talking about the what, how will we solve this problem, what are we going to do, etc. We don't spend time on clarifying the why and the purpose. You tend to think that is time consuming, it's a waste of time. That's what I think we need to actually get better at, is to talk more about the why, the core purpose. Why are we doing what we are doing? What is important? What is, the core purpose has to be much better articulated. I think that's one of the ways in which we would do that.
I think you're reiterating the fact that purpose, which means investor and a part of the multiplier is what you use to. Okay, fantastic. Next question is to you as well.
What role does agile methodology play in fostering a multiplier leadership culture? It's actually, agility is all about doing something, failing fast, learning from it, and iterating. This is, in a nutshell, what agility is all about. Again, I'm sorry, I'm kind of playing back on an Indian context, but it is very important, I think, to be very culturally aware of this. Why the biggest blocker for agility from a cultural context is that we take mistakes we don't have the right attitude towards mistakes. Okay, when something doesn't go well, usually it's like, I can't believe you made a mistake, or this is the reaction to it. But that right there cuts off innovation, cuts off iteration, because everybody is in the fear mode. I have to do something that is perfect, that my manager will not find any fault with it. That mindset cuts off agility, cuts off innovation, cuts off iteration. So I think there is the onus on leadership now, if you want to really foster an agile mindset, is to give that space to make failures. It's how do you react when something doesn't go well is what will foster that agility in your organization.
Wonderful. So failure should become a good word. I think one thing. So next question to Shekhar.
How do you manage to be a multiplier in a technically intensive field like electrical protection and wind energy? Okay. Well, see, in your area of whether it is electrical protection or wind energy, ensure that you give enough space to your competitors also, so that they would also bring in and challenge you, and by which you will be able to showcase, you have your team to actually understand better, and they would grow technically, they will start pursuing to understand better, and then the more reading which will help to do that. So that's one of those things. Again, the whole thing is keep yourself updated always, whichever area wherever you're working on, because things are changing so very fast. Keep yourself updated, keep reading, and that's one of those things which I strongly believe. I request my team also to always do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Shekhar. I think the next question is from Shalini, addressed to me. In your experience, what's the most effective way to coach a team leader to move from a diminishing mindset to a multiplier mindset? Yeah, so the first thing is make the leader believe that their followers are capable of doing more than what they can do. I think, and remove the insecurity. Most of this diminishing tendency comes when there is an element of insecurity, and with the belief that their followers are not as capable as they are. So make them believe that, yes, the real success of a leader is when they make others successful, the followers successful, not when they just become successful. So more successful leaders you sort of generate, you are seen as a better leader. So the leaders who grow within the organizations are not the leaders who achieve their company's task individually. It's how, as a team, they achieve and how they make their team feel recognized and also successful. That's how it is done. I hope I have answered your question, Shalini. Thank you. Soumya.
From your exposure to both Indian and American leadership styles, how do you compare their adoption of the multiplier mindset? I think it's an excellent question, because I kept talking a lot about the cultural context here. I think one of the, just taking off of what Ram Prasad just talked about, one of the core fundamental beliefs, if you want to be a multiplier, is that others are, if not better than you, or at least equally as a genius or capable as you are, right? Which means you actually need to have a lot of humility to accept that. So humility is at the core of this multiplier mindset as well. You need to be humble to say that, okay, this is all I know. My job is to actually empower and enable others to achieve greatness. So I think from that context, I don't see a big difference between Indian and American mindset. Perhaps, humility comes sort of naturally to an Indian cultural context. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Soumya. Now, this is an open question. Hi, how should we adopt the concept of multipliers with the new generation? What is the difference in the approach compared to the previous generation? Maheshwi. Again, a fantastic question. I think diminisher won't work with the new generation. Straight away, I'll tell that. So you have to be a multiplier for you to get, the new generation work. Listen to them and understand them and encourage them to contribute. If you go about doing the diminishing work, you won't have a team soon in the new generation. Yeah. So that's my view. What you can add on to that, Soumya and Sudhir?
They are a lot smarter, and give them the space and listen. Oh, they only need a little bit of course correction. That's all. Otherwise, they're fine.
You can go to the next question.
With AI entering HR, how can leaders ensure a balance between automation and a human touch? I think we were just talking about using ChatGPT, Perplexity, etc. for simplifying tasks, and I think that AI is there in many areas of managing an organization, certainly in HR. I think what AI has been able to do is to automate or reduce some of the tactical work, giving space to the HR team to actually think and do the human touch. That's something that I have seen in our organization, that if you need to answer a particular question, figure out, do workshops, how do I even get this multiplier mindset in my organization? So much more easier now, because you can have that conversation with ChatGPT, make it create a workshop module for you and things like that. So actually, AI is going to increase the human touch, because the gross activities, which are more tactical, can now be automated or simplified.
I completely can relate to that, Soumya, because I've been using AI for last 2 years probably, and I've become more efficient. I spend less time on mundane work and more time with the humans. So that way, you tend to spend more with the humans and less on the mundane work, which is taken by AI. So next question to Shekhar.
How do you encourage cross-functional or cross-industry collaboration as a multiplier tactic within your network? Cross-functional is already happening in most of the industries. Today you can't be watertight on that, and that is encouraging. It's happening now. Cross-industry collaboration is also there, but it's now getting more and more important, because if we saw what happened when we need good supply chain resilience. So unless you have a cross-industry collaboration, you would definitely bring a lot of mitigation in your supply chain resilience. So that is what today we are looking at, and this is very, very important. And today we don't think that just because the data is shared, I have lost my competitive edge. So in fact, it could even multiply sometimes.
Yeah, we are moving from competing to collaborating in a big way. I think that's a new way of approaching. Okay, next question is an open question. How can I shift from solving problems myself to empowering others to solve them?
Listen more, talk less.
And read the book.
Yeah, first believe that others can solve the problem. I think then, and you stop solving it. Automatically you will see others solving the problems. We all believe that we only can solve the problem, others cannot solve the problem. And it'll be a surprise to you when you give opportunities to others. They will really surprise you by solving the problem. Okay. Probably the last two questions before we wind up. What strategies can leadership use when a coordinator consistently exhibits diminishing behavior that stifles team contributions? Yeah,
I think this is something that leadership should be aware of. And like I said earlier, I think the concept of a multiplier or a diminisher is not in the vocabulary of a lot of leadership, right? So I can just if I can take a minute to explain one situation that we had in our organization. Very efficient manager, right, that we had, who would start her work at like 5 o'clock in the morning, doesn't stop until like 10 p.m. Very prompt in responding to the customer emails, and it gives you the impression that this is such a hardworking person, her heart is in it, etc., etc. But as I was reading one of this, I could completely relate that she was diminishing her team. Now, I could not relate that back then. I can relate it now after I've read this particular book. But it is important to perhaps have those skip level discussions to see if a manager is empowering and motivating and giving space to the team or is stifling them. And you can have conversations, you can coach, but that is an important aspect that leadership has to do, is to recognize that behavior and correct it.
Fine. So recognizing the diminishing behavior and fixing it is very important. In fact, in our company, we had a manager in Delhi at some point in time where he had a team of 10. Within probably 8 months, the team reduced to 3. So we knew that what is happening with that person, and we had to let him go. So that and we rebuild the team with a multiplier later on. So this is another way to do it. So probably this is the last question we are going to take this evening. For others, please, you can send the questions through MMA. Okay, we have time? Okay, fine, no problem. So what leadership approach to retain talent management, especially among Gen Z and millennials? Wow.
Sure. I think it's an excellent question. And actually, if you reflect about it, the retaining talent is very, it's similar across all age groups, right? It's just that your slightly older 45 plus people had a different expectation. They wanted a paycheck. They were willing to put up with a lot more. Gen Zs are not willing to put up with much, right? I think the key is, if I can go back to that, it's like being very clear about what is the purpose. People today want to do something that is of a greater purpose. They want to solve a problem. They actually are coming in with a fantastic mindset. But that means that they're challenging you to give them bigger and bigger problems and bigger responsibilities. I think, like you said earlier, you cannot survive in today's world if you're adopting a diminishing mindset. You have to very quickly adopt a multiplier mindset, be very clear about the purpose, inspire people through the purpose, but give them the space and invest in them. And I think that's the way to kind of, retain talent and keep them engaged.
Absolutely. So be a liberator and make sure that you give them enough freedom, enough space, allow them to do mistakes, and then encourage them wherever possible, and don't put them down when they fail. That's very, very important, and that's how we go about. Soumya, next question to you.
Yeah, I think being a diminisher is not rewarding at all. I think for both parties, right? So you don't really get the results that you're expecting despite working very hard, despite feeling like, and you're constantly overwhelmed by all of the stuff that you need to do. So it is certainly not a good space to be in for both parties, both the manager who's a diminisher as well as the people who are being diminished by that. So in order to change that mindset, sometimes, people don't recognize that that's how they are. They think that this is right because this is how they've seen their bosses treat them. So this is some sort of a generational trauma that we are carrying. These are the role models that we have looked upon, and this is who we have learned from. So it's not going to be easy to change that quickly. But in certain organizations, you do bring in coaches, you do bring in leadership coaches when you recognize these traits and you want to make that change. That kind of actually does help. So I think there is that support that is required for your managers to make sure that, and for all of us, not why your managers talking about all of us, right? We all have to undergo that sort of a mindset shift.
I think the leadership coaching is a very important step an organization has to take. To let them know, the diminishers, that how they are impacting their followers, because otherwise they won't. They always believe that they're doing the right thing for the organization. In a way, from the results perspective, yes. But from the followers' perspective, no. So that's how we are to do. I think we have come to the end of all the questions, and thank you very much for being such a lovely audience. I hope you enjoyed the review of the book, and please do read this book and give your feedback whenever possible. And thank you, Soumya and Shekhar, for sharing your insights from your very own lives. And it was very, very useful and insightful to the audience. Thank you for your time and insights.